Heading into the season, NC State football maybe had some concerns at wide receiver. Did we just address them?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Wolfpack Nation, welcome back to another episode of Locked On Wolfpack, free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm Grayson Boone. Joining me is Kenton Gibbs. And Kenton, coming into this week, yes, we still maybe had some potential concerns at the wide receiver position here in 2023. A lot of unproven guys, you could say, having to rise through the ranks, but suddenly, NC State has added a well-traveled wide receiver to the fold in Bradley Rosner here on Monday. Of course, you're hearing this on Tuesday. Bradley Rosner is a bit of a college football journeyman, as we've learned that this is his 8th year of college football. Kenton, what do you make of this?
You know, I told people before we're going to see more of the super seniors. With the COVID rules and all that, and with what we've already seen in regards to injury waivers and whatnot. And so, Bradley has done a phenomenal job at his last stop at Rice. And that Rice team wasn't very good, but he was their leading receiver. So that says something. That says a little something there. With a big 6'5" frame, he's a guy that he's not necessarily going to blow by you, but if it's you, him and the ball, that 50-50 just became about a 75-25.
Absolutely. And we're going to touch on, physically Bradley Rosner in just a second, but I do want to highlight all of his stops here as this is his 8th year of college. So began in the year of 2016. I was actually still in college when Bradley entered college. He spent 4 years at Cisco Junior College. This is in Cisco, Texas. First 2 years in 2016 and 2017, he was redshirting with an injury. 2018 and 2019 were his redshirt freshman and redshirt sophomore years at the junior college in Texas. 2020, he sat out with an injury, so did not play at all in 2020. Then transferred to Rice, where he spends his redshirt junior and redshirt senior year with the Rice Owls in 21 and 22. And now finds himself in Raleigh, running with the Wolfpack, exercising, like you mentioned, Kent, his bonus COVID year here in 2023. But yes, Kent, you mentioned his size, and that is something that certainly jumps off the page here with Rosner. He is 6'5", so you feel like that opens up a lot of possibilities, with the jump ball, the goal line fade, just a big physical wide receiver that you can add to the mix. But we were kind of chit-chatting a little bit about this before we jumped on here. I'm going to be honest, because I've seen a lot of NC State fans over the moon with Rosner, and I can understand why. Have potentially some concerns at wide receiver position, not sure who's going to step up or maybe take a big jump this year. And a lot of people seem that, magically all of those questions have now been answered with the addition of Bradley Rosner. Typically I'm maybe even overly positive in regards to NC State, but I'm not so convinced that Rosner is going to bring a multitude of things to the table for us. Yes, it is a good depth piece that we did need that. Yes, he is a big body receiver, potentially creates a lot of mismatches, but I'm not so impressed with his resume, I guess you could say. 2 years at Rice, 4 years in junior college. Like you mentioned, Rice, about as mediocre gets in the AAC conference. And yeah, his numbers were good on a bad team last year in the AAC. It's too close to ACC. I just don't know. I don't know if I see it. I don't know if I see him being, a complete difference maker to NC State in 2023.
And I get that. I understand where you're coming from there. There's an argument there. There's an argument there for like, hey, this is an upgrade on what we have, but it's not world beating. But I'll tell you this, the fans deserve to be excited about an upgrade, right?
Sure.
Like the fans could be excited about, hey, we had completely unproven in the past, and now we may not have, we may not have a guy that we're looking at like, oh yeah, he's going to be in the green room for all of 3 minutes next year in the NFL draft when names are being called. No, we don't have that. But this is a guy that's proven that he can get it done at a high level. And when we look at who he is in a lot of regards, I would say he is the antithesis, and this is not to knock this young man. I hope him all the best in Happy Valley. He is the antithesis of Devin Carter in many ways. And the only thing they have in common is that they're tough to tackle when they get the ball in their hands. But other than that, polar opposites, right? He doesn't have the top end speed to take the top off, but he has elite, extremely elite ability in terms of high pointing the ball, in terms of making the quarterback right, and all that good stuff. And beyond that, he's got sure hands. He's got sure hands. It's tough to see. You rarely see the ball jarred away from this young man, and even less, you rarely ever see him drop a wide open pass just off principle. You know what I mean? Like that's not who he is. So I would say there's reason for excitement from the fans. I wouldn't say that this now makes us one of the best wide receiver rooms in the ACC. Absolutely not. But are we better today than we were yesterday? Yes.
Yeah, no, unquestionably, yes on that. I'm not exactly complaining that we picked him up. I just think some of the takes I've been seeing, and that, like, I saw a couple folks say, I think this immediately makes us an ACC contender now. I don't know if that really takes us over the top here with the addition of Rosner. It certainly could. We talk a lot about Robert Anae getting the most out of his personnel. He could turn Bradley Rosner into a superstar this year. That'll kind of remain to be seen. We certainly hope so, but just on paper for me, I'm not sure how big of a difference it'll potentially make in the long run. Like I mentioned, it is a good depth piece that we did need this. You're looking around the current status of the wide receiver room, and you are asking guys like a Porter Rooks, a Julian Gray, a Kevin Concepcion, maybe a Juice Vereen to carry, much bigger workloads than they have been exposed to these past couple of years. So you're adding a guy with 7 previous years of college football experience. You certainly hope that there's going to be a big difference made in there somewhere, whether it is Rosner or maybe the influence from Rosner, maybe coaching up the guys wherever he can. But I don't know. I don't think it makes a humongous impact on NC State. However, it is positive nonetheless.
I'll tell you this much. The thing that I would say here is look what he did when he had a bunch of big body receivers at Virginia. Look what he did when he had, I want to say Brown, who was the tight end that turned out to be amazing, a lot like what Juice Vereen could be, and Lavelle Davis Jr., God rest his soul. Look at what he did with that combination of players, and that could potentially be a preview of what we would see here with these two guys in terms of like, hey, we're going to push the ball downfield into these big body guys and make something happen there.
Or maybe even an Oronde Gadsden, like we saw at Syracuse last year. These big body receivers, they could be made very dangerous by Robert Anae. We certainly
100%.
hope so here in 2023. But, if you're looking to place a sure bet, maybe you're going to bet that Bradley Rosner turns into a superstar in Raleigh, you need to take yourself over to FanDuel and take your first swing at betting maybe even some Major League Baseball on FanDuel. We're in the second half of the Major League Baseball season. Things are heating up. We're getting closer to the trade deadline. We might see Shohei Ohtani get dealt to somewhere else. That could be, groundbreaking in terms of baseball news. But you need to be placing your bets on FanDuel. You can get up to 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right, just $20. You can bet just $20, Kenton, and you can land up to $200 back in bonus bets, win or lose. This is all coming on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. If you want to bet on the Red Sox, hopefully I'm a Red Sox fan, you want to bet on the Red Sox to speed this up and win the AL East, if that happens, you'll get paid as soon as the season's over. You get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on the MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get up to $200 back in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right. And next up here, speaking of baseball, Kenton, we picked up a major portal edition for the Pac-9 here on Monday. It comes out of Greenville, North Carolina. We have poached a very important player from the ECU Pirates. It is their third baseman, Alec Makarevich. How do you say it? I guess affectionately known as AMAC, which I think is a good nickname. That'll get a lot of play here in Raleigh. But this is a big deal. And it's a big deal in terms of NC State filling a need at third base. That's a big time need heading into 2024, of course, with the departure and drafting of Gino Groover. But it's also a big deal because this is, you open up the Pandora's box of transfer portaling, and you might see these big name players go to crosstown rivals, and it makes rivalries like this a whole lot more interesting. And I've seen some ECU fans with some opinions, but before we get into those, Kenton, how big of a deal is this to get AMAC here in Raleigh?
Well, first of all, his walk-up song has to be "Return of the Mack."
Let's just
start there. But even beyond that, I mean, this is a very big deal because at the end of the day, like you talked about, there are holes that need filling all up and down that baseball team. And why would you ever be upset with filling those holes with really good players? Why would you ever be upset with having a guy like Alex Mack on your team and on your roster in terms of, again, feeling like you said, what is a need? This isn't something that was like, oh, it's nice to have. No. This is a legitimate, we were struggling. And I'll tell you this much. A player with experience like him, a player who's played in big games as well like him, that's important because we saw lots of boneheaded mistakes and errors where it's like, listen, I don't know what you want from Avon. He can't coach that into not happening. You as a player have to take it upon yourself to make sure that's not happening. To have a guy that's experienced, that's played some good ball. I mean, he's not quite as experienced as Rosner, but nobody is. He's a guy that, again, he's going to do good things in the red and white.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a colleague through a college baseball chat, and I asked her thoughts on Alec Mack joining us from ECU, as she often writes about ECU. This is what she had to say about him joining us in Raleigh. He's very positive, good attitude, hardworking, good temperament. He stuns at third base. He's a very, very good defender. Not the fastest, but he has a good arm. He's played outfield in the past, provides a bit of versatility. And she said he could give you a lot of doubles, not the biggest power guy, but he's a good player overall. Certainly a lot to be excited about coming from someone who watched a lot of AMAC in Greenville these past couple of years. But yeah, I mean, he is a very solid defender. I remember a couple key plays he made in what I guess that would have been 2022 Super Regional in Greenville when they took on Texas. I think he hit a couple of key home runs too. But this past year, I guess this year in 2023, he hit 258, 11 doubles, 11 home runs, and 49 RBIs. I believe if you compare that to what we did here in Raleigh, that would have ranked him probably near the top in all of those categories, maybe with the exception of average there. But this is a very big role being filled here in third base because, again, you mentioned Gino getting drafted. That leaves a lot of questions. Is it going to be a freshman that starts at third base? Are we going to have to go to the portal? We ended up doing so. But I just feel like this is probably best case scenario for NC State going into 2024. I really think that this is probably about as good of a portal pickup as we could have found for third base heading into next year. So certainly a lot to be excited about there. But now I kind of want to talk about maybe the elephant in the room with this situation. ECU fans are losing their minds over this. And I think that it's fun because it adds a little bit of fuel to the rivalry fire. And I don't know if I'd necessarily call ECU a rival. It's very fun playing them. I think there is certainly elements of a rivalry, not just in baseball, but it seems to really come out in baseball a lot. But I got to get to some of these comments from these ECU fans, Kenton, because
Tweet through it. Just tweet through it, baby.
They're
Tweet
flying off the handle, and it's too good not to share. So to start, I'm going to put up a little graphic here to describe what I've been seeing.
Yeah.
They're tweeting through it. ECU fans, just tweet through it. We're here to listen. Our phone lines are open.
They're open.
Go ahead.
Call us. We'll be available. We'll pick up because y'all need to tweet through this right now.
1-800 y'all mad. Hit us up. But ECU fans, man, I was going through the replies of Alex's commitment announcement on Twitter, and I suddenly felt the urge to get my blood pressure checked with the amount of salt content I was consuming in these replies. I felt unhealthy. Yeah. And, just picking off the top here, this one comes from @HemiNeutron. He says, I'm fine if players transfer and whatever, business is business. But transferring to a big rival after 4 years of being an ECU is just bad taste, and it really shows your lack of loyalty to Coach Godwin and ECU as a whole. Okay. Next one. This is coming from @MistyGrover. Sorry, Mack, I don't like it. I won't talk blank, but I didn't want to see you go, and I really, really, really don't like it. Avent with 5 question marks? Really? Yes, Misty, really. This next one's coming from @DiamondBucks1996. He says, good riddance.
Know what? It seems, hold on, we're looking here. Yeah, so the 1-800 Stay Mad line is busy, but don't worry. We have an additional line available. 1-800 y'all mad. Y'all mad. That's the number to call into if you are an ECU fan who just needs to tweet through it right now, who needs to talk through it right now. You can call us at 1-800 y'all mad. Stay Mad is a little busy. We're a little cramped. Don't worry. We're processing all the copium that we can at once.
Yeah, that's the last of the tweets that I'll read, but I saw Barstool ECU getting into it. They were telling them to walk the plank, which is kind of funny. I saw them already endorsing the player who they think will be taking over at third base. Just you love to see it. As an NC State fan, as an NC State baseball fan, you absolutely love to see it. And just recapping this little fun little piece here, we're getting a very good player, despite everything the ECU is saying and his inconsistencies, maybe not showing up in big moments. I've seen plenty of moments that he showed up in a big way, talking about that super regional against Texas in 2022. I think NC State is getting a steal. I think we're getting an excellent player, and I look forward to him excelling in the red and white here in 2024. Stick with us, folks. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. All right, we're back. Let me fix my graphic here. There we go. Okay. Last portion here. We use a lot of graphics from Big Game Boomer on this program. I always kind of use the disclaimer, whether you take this at face value or not, because a lot of Big Game Boomer is doing is trying to get clicks and reactions out of people. Well, if you're an NC State fan, I believe he did just that on Monday. He released his QBU, if you go by conference. And to be honest with you, Kenton, I really didn't even pay any attention to any other conference because I couldn't take my eyes off who he listed under the ACC. Big Game Boomer has Clemson listed as QBU for the ACC. In my best Tim Robinson impression, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Clemson?
I think it's tough to make this argument for a vast number of reasons. Like it really is. What metric are you using to determine who QBU is? Are you saying QB success all time? Are you saying QB success currently? Are you saying, like, what are we saying here as the metric? Because if we're going all time, NC State has it by a mile. But if we're going currently, I mean, it's still pretty close. It's still like Trevor Lawrence is doing his thing, sure. Clemson has an advantage there, but Deshaun Watson last year was just god awful. So much so, do you remember who Deshaun Watson's backup was last year?
Or the year was it Kelly Bryant?
Oh no. His backup in Cleveland last year.
Oh, in Cleveland? I have no idea.
You should, because it was a young man who actually no, I think he was gone last year. I wanted to say it was Jacoby Brissett, but I believe he was gone last year. But either way it goes, actually no, he was with the Dolphins. Yeah, so he was. I'm sorry, not the Dolphins, the Browns last year. He was with the Browns. They basically did like this experiment, seeing like how bad Jacoby would have had to be toward the end of the season to be worse than what Deshaun Watson did. And basically he would have had to like chuck 50 passes straight and complete in order to like have the same QBR. So, this is, again, it's a very simple thing here. I'm looking up and I'm saying to myself, what metric are we using, right? Because we could look at a lot of different things here and say like, hey, NC State isn't QBU, but based on what? Based on what? Are we talking average success of the quarterbacks who go to the league? Because we still got them beat there. I mean, you had Russ, who got a huge contract. Mike Glennon got a huge contract. Phillip Rivers is Phillip Rivers. What are we doing here? Like, what? I'm a little confused as to how they get QBU when, I mean, again, outside of Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, name me a quarterback from Clemson.
I believe the only one that maybe comes to mind that had a little bit more than a cup of coffee in the NFL would be Charlie Whitehurst, which, again, okay.
And who replaced Charlie Whitehurst again?
Couldn't tell you.
Russell Wilson. It was Matt Flynn and Russell Wilson. That was who replaced him.
There you go. I mean, yeah, you do have to outline exactly how you're measuring this. I think the majority of folks, when you think of QBU discussions, you're measuring it on both, yes, getting players to the NFL, the quantity of players you have placed into the NFL, but also how they're doing once they get there. And yeah, I mean, when we have Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Mike Glennon, Jacoby Brissett to stand on, Ryan Finley was in there for a hot second. We're certainly hoping that Devin Leary, we will get to claim Devin Leary. I'm going to hold that right now. Once he gets to the league, I just, other than pure clickbait and creating discussions, I just don't know how you go Clemson here. And sure, they did have a good little run at Clemson with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, but what have you done for me lately in the league? Not much, other than bad headlines, unfortunately.
Oof,
so
nasty work.
I don't know. I think Florida State probably has a better argument than Clemson does here. And even theirs is not that great. So it kind of reaffirms what we already knew. I saw a lot of NC State fans quickly jump to the defense of all the great quarterbacks we produced here, and rightfully so. We are the best quarterback creating college here in the ACC at NC State.
So listen, NC State fans, I know you're passionate. There's a thing called content farming, okay, or engagement farming. Engagement farming, rather. What people do is they tweet, they say, they put out ridiculous things because they know a bunch of people will interact with it. The more people interact with it, the more money they get, the more likely they are to be paid. Now, we love Big Game Boomer, and normally he's not a malicious or bad actor of this. But there are malicious and bad actors who use engagement farming in the same way. We do not need to react to all things like this because, again, Deshaun Watson is the guy right now, and I'm sorry, I actually looked this up, and it is much worse than I thought it was, like exponentially worse than I thought this was. Deshaun Watson's QBR last year was 38. Jacoby Brissett's was a 66. Mind you, that's on a scale of 1 to 100.
PU.
So, yeah. Long story short, I mean, we have as at the end of the day, when we're looking at what's going on in the NFL right now, saying who's QBU, even if you were using just right now, it would be you'd have a hard time selling Clemson as that school.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us here on Tuesday. If you run into a Clemson fan at the water cooler anytime this week, make sure you let them know who QBU is in the ACC. But as always, drop us a like, drop us some comments. I want to see a whole lot more comments. Some of you have been very good at staying consistent with this. Drop us some comments on how you see Bradley Rosner playing into this new look offense. Drop us some comments on your opinion on Alec Makarevich joining us here in Raleigh from our rivals in Greenville, the ECU Pirates. And again, let us know why NC State is and has been QBU in the ACC. Thank you as always for giving us another listen. Be sure to also hit that subscribe button on your way out the door. We'll see you all tomorrow. And as always, go Pack.
Go Pack.